Hackers. What's the most disturbing thing you've ever found while hacking? My school ID system was alphabetical and passwords followed numerical, so Adam Ames was adam.ames0001 password. We had access to everyone, and everyone had all their stuff on cloud servers, so we could edit anyone at any time. While I didn't do anything, I had friends delete everyone they hated, homework folders and stuff. Eventually, 30 kids were passed because the school didn't want to admit its security system was that easy to beat. But another 20 kids were due to fail. The school changed grades themselves, so grade numbers were higher, and we were able to see it happen live. So we had two major issues. In high school, found the root admin password buried in a script file that would run. Leveraged that to get Root and Integrate Pro, the school's attendance and grading software. Explored some more and found a dial-in modem for emergency access to the network if the main fiber network failed. Was trying to pitch my principal on how better security was needed. He challenged me on why it was important. This was around 2000. Security was not a big deal yet. I replied that I could change my grades from home or do it for others. As a result, I got into a seniors-only class where you'd basically function as a school employee and fix the network as a sophomore. I gotta admit, thus far the stories are pretty tame. Frankly, if the most disturbing thing found is some bad school grade security, I'm going to sleep fine tonight. But why do I suspect it isn't going to be the case for long? Naughty. I managed to break my ex's father's password. While snooping through files to see what I could find, I stumbled upon folders and folders of himself, his wife, and various friends of theirs wearing nothing but literal crap and peeing on each other. They were in their 70s, and it left me scarred. Back when DSL was king and you could snoop your internal ISP network for file sharers, I did just that. This was in the IRC days, so I always went looking down the same folder path to find whatever's open. This isn't really hacking in the sense of figuring out how something works and then working around it or defeating a security flaw. You could literally just input an IP range and it would just go around to every IP asking, "Hey, are you sharing?" I'd found some good adult entertainment, some really weird music, and rarely would find like a TV show or a movie. Fast DSL was still maybe 10 megabits at the time, so compared to now, really slow. After finding one of these accounts, I started opening the JPEGs inside. Things were looking good until I ran across obvious CP. It was sick, like I went and vomited. I thought about what can I do about this? I could report it to my ISP abuse department, but then I'd be narking on myself, so that's obviously out. Could just delete it, but then they could just download it again. So I took one of those images, renamed it to logo.sys, and placed it in the main root of the offender's C drive. To explain further, for those that don't know, Win95 all the way up to Windows XP kept the loading Windows splash screen in a file called logo.sys. This made it easy for partners like HP, Dell, Compaq, etc. to make custom loading screens like powered by HP along with the Windows logo. So that meant that now, the next time that computer rebooted, instead of a Windows loading screen, it would display the offending image that I renamed. Honestly, for something like that, even if there could possibly be repercussions, I feel like you need to call the police. This creep could live on their own and just wipe their PC or something, and frankly, I feel like the police might be willing to look the other way and focus their sights on the worst criminal. Back when Kazaa was big, I downloaded a bunch of adult entertainment. 13-year-old me figured since I built my own computer and bought all the parts myself that it'd be safe from my mom and her newly married husband. Wrong. He didn't hack it exactly because I had no safeguards and had nothing to hide, but when I got home, he asked me why I was watching animal adult entertainment. I was so confused and said I hadn't because that crap's gross. Come to find out, one of the videos I downloaded was labeled as regular old adult entertainment, but it was actually a chick getting effed by a horse. So that's pretty much when I stopped trusting peer-to-peer adult entertainment downloads. So let me give you an actual answer, actual things I found disturbing. Professionally, I'm not a hacker, just an IT monkey. One, I am honestly surprised our banking system works, period. I worked in multiple banks, and frankly, I am surprised their systems work at all. Some servers are 20 years old, some do not have working DR solutions, some are using software that is no longer on the market, so if those servers break and they are 20 years old, there is no working alternative in place. I've seen such servers breaking twice. Once we had to buy identical servers from eBay and ship it to London overnight to repair broken machines. Other time, I just happened to be at the end of a long line of failures, and I'm pretty sure I was responsible for at least 10 million in trading losses. To this day, I don't know how I wasn't sacked for that one. This was an old Solaris 8 server, and frankly, probably half the components weren't working properly, but I still was responsible for that F-up. Fun fact, we had found some servers everyone forgot about. We found some old open BSD3 servers, that's OS from effing 90s. After selling a business unit, new owners just asked, what the F is that thing? We had old Red Hat 2 servers, still running around when I left that bank a few years ago. We had IBM Power 4 servers around, etc. Needless to say, no one released any security updates on those servers in over a decade. 2. Security? What's that? This is mobile banking. We need no security. I've seen engineers commit confidential code for mobile banking apps with secret keys to public Git repos. Also, at one point, I was aware of critical security vulnerabilities in 2 mobile banking apps. This was about 2 years ago. Types of vulnerabilities that potentially would allow hackers to get all info, including card data, which brings me to third point. 3. Pervasive culture of hiding everything. We had security breach? Well, do regulators know this? No? Then let's keep it that way. No one needs to know we have been hacked and millions of people are about to see their money stolen. They hunt down whistleblowers. One bank I work at got fined for money laundering. Established office in some Eastern European country, hired a bunch of young, fresh, recent graduates desperate for jobs, and gave them documents to analyze. In language, none of them spoke. They literally went out of their way to find students who could not understand document they were analyzing, and this was my first job. You know what happened when I actually found money laundering? Company would be gone from the system. Private companies, especially small ones, are worse, probably because they can't afford armies of engineers to try and fix their problems. It's remarkably easy to hack some web store, get credit card data, and start selling it on dark web. You can literally buy someone else's credit card for a few dollars. Banks at least have some security in place. I mean, the lack of security on stuff is definitely not great to hear about, but good grief did I not understand a lot of this. I'm a nerd, but I'm a tabletop and gaming nerd, not an IT nerd. I hope some of you are getting something out of all this. Oh man, Solaris 8 systems, wowzers! Now that is disturbing. I am so lost. I shouldn't mock. I could talk about Thaco for way too long, so I'm really no better. Maybe worse. That a certain database used by universities across Canada containing a ton of personal information stores passwords in plain text. I haven't tested it further, but if such a basic detail was overlooked, there's bound to be other vulnerabilities. I contacted the person at my university who is responsible for it, outlining all the details and demonstrating exactly what is wrong. This was 6 months ago, and last I checked, the issue hasn't been fixed yet. Not hacking, just doing regular maintenance, backup, format, and restall for regular people. Every 1 out of 3 had something you wouldn't expect. Just checking that the backups were complete and in good order was enough to find weird crap. A doctor had pictures of women heels, lots of them. The lady in accounting had pics of cats mating. No videos, nothing else. Pics from her own camera. Only time I actually hacked someone by patiently getting personal information until I cracked his email password and found out he was hitting on my girlfriend by telling her crappy lies about me, and she actually went out with him a couple of times. He was a friend during college, but I knew there was something off. I cut off with both at once. I was working IT at this company 30 years ago, and there was a girl I liked, but she was cold to me. I found out that she was meeting the CFO of the company after hours, so I wanted to see what was going on. I set up their computers to capture everything they were doing and found out they were having an affair. He was married. She was really big on X and C and was using him to pay for her drug habit. She had already milked him for $20,000 of money, and it appeared they were going to make a big score on C in the near future. He was getting a lot of intercourse from her, and to be honest, she was not only hot but freaky, so I get why he was being stupid. In the end, though, he lost his job, got divorced, and she framed him, and he served jail time for the drugs. There was no trace to her because she had covered her tracks. That is, until I took the messages I'd copied and sent them to the detectives. I remember the day they came and got her at the office. It was a huge thrill to see her get arrested. No one ever knew who sent the evidence. I was questioned by my boss, but since I was at such a low-level entry job, they didn't realize the abilities I possessed. I'd already removed the spyware off the computer and cleaned up before they knew what happened. About 20 years ago, when chat rooms were still a thing, I would sometimes do tech support for people in chat. A couple of the kids in chat were underage and had their PC usage monitored by a parent. Since we all shared music, I knew some of what they had and knew where it was located on their PC, so while helping them with something unrelated, I got them to install a script that let me remote play music on their PC, and I would wait for them to say their parent was in the room and make the most embarrassing song they had play. No one wanted to go to jail, so we never did anything that was actually illegal. I mean, a lot of it was illegal in a sense, but when I dared someone to break into my PC, I wasn't going to report him when he did. LOL. In 2001, my friend and I joined an IRC channel on the server where we met this lady. Weeks go by of us talking, and one day she tells us to go to another IRC server. Soon it crashes. Then she tells us to go check on some game servers. Soon they start going down as well. Then websites. Kinda like, go here, and we would go on the website, then one response, then errors and such. We would then make requests for other game servers or whatnot. It soon dawned on me that this lady had a massive network/internet connection and computers at her disposal to be able to DDoS these servers. She showed us how to use VB to script things to spam login attempts or account creating on website, effectively stopping them. Why this scared me so much was the amount of damage this one lady could cause. It opened my narrow view of the internet at the time to something much, much more. Yeah, I definitely feel like some of these would have more of an impact on me if I actually understood half of the stuff I was talking about. I know IRC, I remember that, kind of. Website, that's definitely a word I know. Ooh boy. I went online to the game Burnout Paradise, wasn't sure how it worked because I saw no one else, so I minimized the game and forgot about it. A little bit later, I completely forgot about the minimized game and heard a voice. I listened closer and it sounded like two guys. I immediately thought someone was hacking me. My mic was plugged in, so I said, "What are you doing?" The guy goes, "Just looking at your records, dude." I thought like personal bank records, etc. He meant my racing records. I told him to stop and he says something like, "Why, dude, you were open." So I panicked and shut my computer down. Took a few minutes for me to actually make the connection. This might not be the creepiest, but it's weird. When I was in high school, I had this friend from school who I spoke to a lot on MSN, and there was one time this bot added me, in which it claimed it was a counseling bot of some sort, and at that age, I was terribly naive and believed almost anything. So I would speak to this bot about my problems. Turned out it was this friend all along who would tell everyone at school about my problems. Not only did she do this, but she also made up a pen pal who she claimed she spoke to and gave me their email address, when that was also herself. It was her mom who would call me a loner, weird, and a bad influence as well. When I was 13, I had received a phone call. I picked it up and it sounded like my dad, and the man said nothing otherwise. Both my mom and I had a full-on conversation with this guy for a week straight. He says he's very close to being home and that we should leave the door unlocked. So we did, and my dad had come back from his trip. My mom had started asking about something he said, and he didn't know what she was talking about. Dad claimed he never spoke to us the whole week as he didn't have reception in the woods. We called the phone company and were told that the lines may have been crossed, meaning that whomever we were speaking to lived on the same street. I'm not sure that counts as hacking. That sounds more like crossed wires, literally. But hey, I think I've more than proven just how little I know about any of this. This guy I very briefly dated won't leave me alone. I blocked him on everything and he keeps finding cracks to slip through. Long story short, he plays weird games and I wasn't into it. I told him that I didn't want to talk to him and not to contact me anymore. He said he wouldn't, then continued to bombard me with spam-like messages about everything from what he was watching on TV to the weather. I blocked him on my phone. Months after doing this, I found a voicemail from him in my blocked messages folder. It was new. He tried friending me on Facebook. I blocked him. He posted a missed connection on Craigslist with my first name and city saying he missed me. He super liked me on Tinder. I've blocked him multiple times on OkCupid. He just deletes the accounts and messages me on a new one. The last message was Friday. He hasn't seen me since June. I just wonder what cracks he'll slip through next or if he'll try to show up at my house or work. Am I missing something? I mean, don't get me wrong. That is creepy, and you should absolutely get a restraining order on that creep. I don't even care if you did something wrong as well. That guy is a stalker at this point. But folks, how is this hacking? Late to the thread, but what the hell, story time. My time to shine. This was nearly 20 years ago, when I was 11 years old, back in the days of dial-up internet, back when 15-second adult entertainment clips were 240p and got the job done. I used to save them to floppy drives. Anyway, I was 11 and my parents went to a wedding out of state for 10 hours. I figured it was the perfect time to start perfecting my masturbation techniques. I found this website, and I'll never forget the URL even 19 years later, nudecelebs.com. This was such a joke, but man did I have the hots for Britney Spears. Anyway, I went on the website, clicked yes a bunch of times, and what I didn't realize was that the website dialed out overseas. Called my friend who lived across the street and told him, hey, found this website with adult entertainment. He was all excited and enjoyed the same fun that day. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. It was my friend. He was grounded. He said he got a bill in the mail for $400 for going on that website. My heart nearly sank into my balls. I went white. I had a panic attack. I nearly cried. I asked him how long he spent on it. He said 30 to 40 minutes. I was on it for like 4 hours, exploring adult entertainment. A few days later, as I was sweating it out, I overheard my mother scream from downstairs, $2,600 for what? I got the call to come downstairs. I went down, 11 years old, crying, ashamed, embarrassed, dead man walking. They took one look at me, said to go back upstairs. I never got yelled at. I was never punished. They knew I'd learned my mistake and to never repeat it. A couple years later, my father told me they never had to pay the bill. My mother threatened to sue them for making it so easy for an underage kid to be able to access that material. So they dropped the costs and stopped asking for the money. It was squashed. Man, I haven't mentioned this story in over 10 years, and I'll never forget it. When I first started in college, I used to go to chat rooms all the time. I still talk to some of the people I met online and have met several in real life. There haven't been any problems, and some have been my best friends for over a decade. There was one, however, that I still get freaked out when I think of. He said his name was Ryan, but I highly doubt that now. I had spent several weeks talking to him in our private chat room channel. He was really nice. Asked me about my day, what my likes were, what I wanted to do after college, etc. I really liked him because I'd never had a real boyfriend and struggled with self-esteem. I worked at the local gas station part-time while I went through college. One day, a vase of 24 roses got delivered with a note in it signed for me. My supervisor brought them to me and my jaw hit the floor. I never told Ryan where I lived. A few hours later, the phone rang and my supervisor answered it. It was Ryan. She asked me if I wanted to talk to him. I was so scared, but I felt like it would be stupid to ignore someone who had found out where I worked. I said hello, and someone that was definitely not the age he had told me, he had said he was 20, but this voice sounded like someone my dad's age, asked, "Did you like the roses?" I cordially said thanks, but that I couldn't stay on the phone since I needed to get back to work. He said it was okay, and he'd talk to me later. I had a friend spend the night with me that night. I didn't tell my parents what was going on because they had always hated that I talked to people online. The next morning, I was scheduled to work at 8 a.m. The gas station opened at 5:30 a.m. I got a phone call from a supervisor around 7 a.m. asking if I could come in early because no one had shown up to open the store. One of the regular early birds had called her to say the store wasn't open. I remember looking at my friend and thinking, oh my god, Ryan killed them and is waiting for me to get there. Turns out the opener just overslept. Ryan has nothing to do with that, but I ceased all communication with him from that point on. Fortunately, that was the last I heard from him. I didn't join any more new chat rooms after that. I stuck with the people I already knew. Could have turned out a whole lot worse, and I know I'm lucky. Folks, be careful with people you meet online. I mean, I know this should be obvious, but seriously. And second, to anyone who thinks hacking or tracking down the information of someone you have a crush on from online, if you think for a moment that this is a sweet or romantic idea, it is not. At the best, it comes across creepy, and at the worst, it comes across like a serial killer. Not me, but a lesson on why you should be careful about what you say and do online. So if you haven't heard of a website called YouNow, it's a place where you live stream and people watch. I don't really get the point of it, but it's fun and easy to troll. One day I stumbled across a girl who was pretty young. She was crying and saying how someone she thought was a friend was spreading lies on YouNow. I go find the other girl and she is saying nasty stuff like, I hate the bee. I was only her friend so I could ruin her life easier. I was like, damn, that's cold. So I decided to step in. The mean girl's username was her first and last name. She was also wearing a sweatshirt with her school's name on it. After a short Google search, I found her Facebook and email accounts. I sent her an email telling her to be nicer. I then dug around and found out all sorts of random details: her number on the softball team, her dance club's name, and her parents' name and phone numbers, which after some more Googling I found out where they worked. I then screen capped some mean stuff she had Snapchatted the first girl. She showed her phone screen to the camera. I started telling her in the chat to calm down or I'd text her mom what she had been saying. She called my bluff and I sent her an email with all the information I had. Then in the YouNow chat I told her to check her emails, which she did. She started crying and apologizing. I ended up texting the mom the screenshots and then promptly blocked her number. I never found out the end of it, but I hope the bullying stopped. It was scary to me how easy it was to find all that information. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.